Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Safa and today I'm going to be giving you 5 different YA fantasy book recommendations. So first things first, that the age rating I'm going for YA fantasy is going to be between 13 to around 17 to 18 years old. Now I'm going to make sure that any romance arcs in particular aren't too explicit because I know that's a common criticism of the genre itself, that it's not branded properly and it's not in the right category because something to be overly explicit for a younger audience. So I'll make sure it's all good for that reasons. Okay, so without further ado, let's go on the first recommendation. So people who want to get into the YA fantasy genre, specifically fantasy in general, should be introduced to more beginner recommendations. So the first one I'm going to recommend is Shadow and Bone by Lido. Did I say Lido? Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. It is a trilogy series in the Grishaverse, the first series in the whole Grishaverse timeline. And the whole premise behind this series is that we have our main character, Alina Starkov, who is enlisted in the Royal Army alongside her best friend Mal. They are orphans together, and one day when they're inside what's called the Fold, a stretch of land that's filled with darkness and Volcra, she unleashes this power of sunlight, and unbeknownst to her and everyone else, she is known as the Sun Summoner. Where they are in the country called Ravka, it is plagued by civil wars and by the stretch of land called the Fold because it is prohibiting them from kind of reaching the other side of the port and reaching other resources that can inevitably help them in the war cause. So Alina herself is technically the chosen one or savior figure of the story, and it kind of follows her journey around that to save Ravka. Now, this is such a compelling story because you meet some of our favorite characters of all time in this. It really is interesting because it's no other story is like this because it features a villain to main character type of romance. It also has a love triangle, but that is one of the most reasons why I particularly love the series because it is so refreshing and different. The magic system itself is really fresh and unique. You don't really see something like this anywhere, to be quite honest. And it's really well explained, and I like that it's kind of mild pacing. It's not too fast, not too slow. So even if you are a little confused, it's easy to kind of catch up and remember where you are. The characters, like I said, they're compelling. The story is well paced and it's well developed. It's not complex at all in terms of the politics because it is straightforward from Alina's perspective. So anyway, even if you don't want to read this, you could also check out the Shadow and Bone Netflix show that they've recently adapted. Highly recommend. So the next recommendation I'm going to suggest is going to be a fairy tale retelling of a sorts. Now, fairy tale retellings are really common in the YA space just because there's a ton of Beauty and the Beast retellings. Now, I'm not going to give you one of those because that's just oversaturated, but I'm going to give you a Little Mermaid reimagining, which is, what's it called? Forgot the name. To Kill a Kingdom by Alexandra Christo. This is a YA fantasy standalone, and this is really great because it features our two main characters, Lyra and Elian. So the whole premise behind this story is that Lyra is the mermaid, in this case a siren, and one day she accidentally kills one of her fellow merfolk, and the queen, her mother, has to punish her and says, if you do not go on land as a human and steal the heart of a prince, I will take the captive I have and kill her. So Lyra ventures on land, and Elian at the same time hates the merfolk and the Princess Bane, who is the siren, Lyra in this case. He doesn't know that though, and because she is known for basically murdering a lot of princes and stealing their hearts. So he wants to find a way to destroy them once and for all. And unexpectedly, they kind of team up together. Obviously, Lyra knows what she's supposed to do, but Elian doesn't know what she's getting at. But they kind of work together in this really unexpected way. But it works out because the romance that kind of bubbles up is really good, is well developed. It's a little bit fast-paced. Sometimes I feel like the transition could be worked out a bit better, but overall as a standalone, it's really, really great. It's filled with pirates, adventure, morally great characters, if that's your thing. And what I love about it is that Lyra is such a quirky character. She is fun, she is stubborn, she is quite a badass. In some cases, like, she doesn't take no for an answer, especially from Elian. Like, they're always butting heads in some cases, but that's what makes her fun. And I really did enjoy it, and you probably will too. Okay, the next recommendation I'm going to give you is another like pirate high seas type of adventure story, and that is the Fable duology by Adrian Young. And the whole idea behind this series is that This is about Fable, and she has been abandoned on the island called Jebel by her father for the past couple of years, and she doesn't really know the reason why. So, while she's kind of like fending for herself, she needs to find a way to gain passage across the seas in order to see her father again and kind of question him. You know, what were you doing? Why did you abandon me and mom? And all these other things. And so in order to do that, she befriends the help of a character named West. And that's kind of where the story begins. It's very pirates, there's lots of treasure, morally great characters, fast-paced nature, really great story overall. And it's really short. They're both under 350 pages. It is a duology, and you can easily fly through this because it's just really fun. And Fable herself, like Lyra from before, is really stubborn, and she's quite an unpredictable character. Like, she does do more of what she wants, but she's not afraid to kind of take risks and fend for her friends that she, you know, has befriended along the way. That's kind of her story, and I think you would really enjoy this. This is really good. Okay, the next series I'm going to recommend you is one of my all-time favorites because it is a romance recommendation. It is Caraval by Stephanie Garber. It is an excellent romance series. It's a trilogy, and it features the first book, which is based on the perspective of our main character, Scarlett Dragna. Now, Scarlett was set in an arranged marriage by her father, but her and her sister Tella don't want any part of it, so they kind of took a hike and ran away from home. And while they ran away, they kind of stumbled upon the game called Caraval. Now, upon entering, Scarlett herself realized that Tella has been kidnapped, and in order to save her, Scarlett must win the game of Caraval alongside her trusty fellow friend, newly friend, Julian, and save Tella in the end. So that's kind of the story. It's action-packed. It's very whimsical and fairy tale-esque. Stephanie Garber's writing is very fairy tale, flowery, really pretty kind of writing because it's very magical, princessy. That's kind of the vibes of the story. And if you like that, I think you would really enjoy it. It's not a fairy tale retelling in itself, but it reads like it is one because it's like magical. It's like has these all really pretty elements to it. There's a love triangle, enemies to lovers romance in it. Sorry, no love triangle, just enemies to lovers. The story gets so much better as you go on. So it starts off with Caraval, Legendary, and then Finale. All of them are equally great in their own right. And one of my favorite characters, Jax, appears in the second book. You will not regret meeting him. Okay, so the last thing on this list I'm going to recommend to you is an underrated YA fantasy series. Now, this was recently completed, and that is the Prison Healer series by Lynette Noni. So the order goes the Prison Healer, I don't have it with me, but the Prison Healer, the Gilded Cage, and then the Blood Trader. It is such an incredible story, and it's basically about a girl named Kiva Meridian who has been sentenced to Zalendal prison for the past 10 years of her life, and one day an inmate who's like terminally ill basically comes in with a note from her family saying that you must keep her alive at all costs. And what happens is that the inmate herself has actually been charged to partake in these trials by 4 elements. And it's basically this whole ordeal where you go through these different tasks, really grueling and intense tasks, and if you win and survive all of them, then you will get freedom from Zalendal prison. So Kiva, because knowing her family sent that letter, takes her place in the ordeal. And it's intense. It really sucks because the whole atmosphere of the prison is depressing. However, an inmate by the name of Jaren helps Kiva out at play at some moments, and they kind of develop this relationship with each other along with some other inmates. It gets really, really good. I highly, highly recommend this series. Honestly, what I love is the essence of found family and the message of healing sent behind all 3 books. It gets better and better each book, let me tell you. The first is definitely my least favorite, but the rest of the books, book 2 and 3, are huge page turners. I highly, highly recommend. They're so worth it. There's so many lovable characters you will meet in this book. Really fun, and I think the whole world building and the politics behind the world can be a little confusing at first, but it's gradually explained more and more and more as you go on with the book, that I think it's something everyone will enjoy. Okay, that's kind of it. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you take some of these recommendations to heart, try them out, do your thing. Let me know what you think of them in the end. So I'll see you next time. Bye.